look at the last page of Project 2. This sheet is called Valuing Inventory, Average Cost, First In, First Out, and Last In, First Out methods. Our instructions tell us that at the end of the month, 80 packages of windshield wipers were on hand, and we're asked to find the ending inventory value using first the average cost method, the first in, first out method, and finally the last in, first out method. Here's our information. We're given the date, the number of units received, the unit cost, and the total. So they've found the total by taking the units received and multiplying by the unit cost. So 100 by 965 gives us a total cost of $965. 65 by 975 gives us $633.75, and 145 by 990 gives us $1,435.50. So they've totaled the unit cost for each of the dates. They've also taken the total number of units received, so this 310 number, they simply took the sum of 100, 65, and 145, and they've left it to you to find the total cost on your own. So let's dig in here. Let's start by doing average cost method. So we'll start with average cost. So for the average cost method, it's not so different from finding any other average with any other set of data. The first thing we'll do is add the total costs, which you're only one step away from, thanks to them already finding the total cost for each date. So you just need to find the number that goes in this box. So the total of $965, $633.75, and $1,435.50 goes right there. That's your total cost. Once you have the total cost, you'll just divide by the number of units, which they've already totaled for you here. So take the total cost and divide by the total number of units, and that'll give us the average cost per unit. And that's all there is to the average cost method. This is a pretty small data set as well, which makes it a little bit more quick to do these calculations. All right, so the next one we're going to do is the first in, first out method. First in, first out method. So remember that first in, first out means that the units with the earliest date are sold first. So if I had all these items in my inventory and somebody came in to purchase units, I would pull the May 1st inventory and I would completely sell out of it before ever touching inventory from May 8th. And I would never touch May 19th inventory until I was sold out of both May 1st and May 8th. Okay. First in, first out makes sense for items that are perishable, right? So for example, if you had an ice cream cone stand, as you're making ice cream cones, you're going to sell off the old ones first because you don't want them to melt and be useless, right? So especially things that perish, you're going to sell the oldest stuff off first and keep the freshest stuff in your inventory. So in this case, we're told that 80 packages of windshield wipers are left over. So if there are a total of 310 units, and there are 80 left over, then that means that there were 230 sold, right? Now since this is the first in, first out method, the 230 sold would come from earlier dates. So notice that there are 100 units from May 1st. So that means 100 of these units came from May 1st, and that leaves, of the 230, we've just accounted for 100 of them, which leaves another 130 that we need to figure out. Okay, so hopefully you can see where I'm going with this. So we have the first 100, we know they came from the May 1st date, and that's important because each of these dates has a different cost. So those first 100 units cost us a different amount than the next 65 would. So of the 130 remaining units, when we went to sell them, now that May 1st is sold out, we would have next gone to May 8th and pulled inventory from there. So 65, the next 65 would have come from that May 8th date. Okay. That leaves another 65 unaccounted for. So of the 145 on the May 19th date, 65 units came from there. Okay? Now this is a little tricky, so let's recap. There were 80 wipers left over, which means that there were 230 sold. Because this is first in, first out method, I would go to the oldest date and sell out that inventory first. So that means I would have sold all 100 of my May 1st units. Now once those were sold out, still another 130 units were sold. So when the next unit came to be sold, I would have had to pull from my May 8th inventory. I would have sold all 65 from May 8th before ever touching the May 19th inventory. So once I sold out all 65, that left 65 units that were still sold. So we're figuring out, where did those 65 units come from? They must have come from May 19th. So 65 units came from May 19th, which means that of the 145 units that were received on May 19th, we sold 65 of them, which left 80 units from May 19th on hand. Okay? That's important because it tells us which unit cost we're going to use. So the 80 left over are from the May 19th group, so all we need to do in order to find out how much that inventory is worth is multiply the number we have left by the unit cost. So to find the cost, we're going to take our leftover number, so the number on hand, which is 80 because they told us that, the number on hand, and we're going to multiply it by the unit cost. And we determine the unit cost because we know this is the first in, first out method. So you'll take 80 by the unit cost from May 19th. Finally, that leaves the last in, first out method, which is pretty much the opposite of what we just did. So we sell off the most recent inventory first. So that means if we have 80 packages left on hand, that we must have sold out all 145 of these, all 65 of these, and 20 of the 100 from May 1st. Okay? Again, this is the last in, first out method, so the most recent gets sold off. So we would have sold off all of the May 19th, all of the May 8th. There were 80 of these original 100 left on hand. So for our last in, first out method, our cost would be the number on hand multiplied by the unit cost from May 1st. Now I know first in, first out and last in, first out can be a little bit tricky, so if you need to see further videos on either of these two styles worked out in more detail, go to my lesson 9. I have several videos there with examples where I completely work out problems on average cost, first in, first out, and last in, first out methods.